Would you like to save yourself 12 minutes per week of listening to ads like this?
Well, Club Retrospectors members get an ad-free feed on their podcast app, plus weekly bonus bits and freshly baked episodes every Sunday.
And right now you can try being a member for free. Visit patreon.com/retrospectors or click subscribe on Apple Podcasts and you get a 10-day free trial.
That's patreon.com/retrospectors or click subscribe in Apple Podcasts.
And hurry, because the offer ends January the 18th.
It's May 14th, 1878, and another remarkable event is about to be uncovered by Arian, Rebecca, and Ali, the Retrospectors.
It was on this day that the very last person was taken to court for witchcraft in Salem, Massachusetts, and it surprised me to learn that that person was a man.
Yeah, and even more surprising was that he was the follower of a weird religious movement founder who was a woman, which also sounds quite odd for, culty religious movements.
And also, if we're playing gender history games, he was taken to court on the allegations of a woman, not a man.
Yeah. It's all upside down and back to front. I mean, it is actually true that the great majority of cases in Salem were against women, and that, it was 78%.
I'm only laughing because I thought that might be. I mean, obviously it is true that the great majority of witches are women. But then you said cases and it was all fine and journalistic. Carry on.
But it's also notable that this particular case took place a good 200 years after the original sort of tranche of cases that are famous in Arthur Miller's The Crucible, the ones that we all know about, that were actually in 1693. So this is a good kind of almost 200 years later.
I do wonder whether this ever would have got to court if it hadn't happened in Salem. Both because the folklore there meant people were more credulous about witches. We're talking about 1878. I mean, it's practically the 20th century.
Yeah.
But also because the public at large love a franchise, don't they? People are like, have you heard? It's happening in Salem again.
Salem 2. The witch is back. Anyway, the case itself revolved around the accusations, as you say, of a woman. Her name was Lucretia Brown. She was a spinster of 50 years old.
Great word. We have to do a show about that one as well.
I know. Yeah, where did that begin?
Permissible use of the word spinster.
And she was accusing a fellow Christian Scientist, and this becomes a crucial detail later on, a guy called Daniel Spofford, of attempting to harm her with his mesmeric mental powers. And so the story that she brought to court was that she had had a spinal injury, sadly, as a child, and she was getting help for it through Christian Science, which was this sect. And Spofford had intervened and stopped the positive assistance she was getting through Christian Science from working with his powers of mesmerism. And so she was saying that his mind control had caused her to have this renewed bout of pain.
So was there a specific reference to the devil? Because in the original witchcraft trials, Witches 1, we might call it now we have the sequel, it was all about being in league with Satan, wasn't it? But it sounds like this guy just had a powerful brain.
So this was very much a new form of witchcraft. So whereas the original...
Classic witchcraft.
Whereas the classic witchcraft was very focused around these puritanical ideas.
The all-female lineup before they went for the men.
Yeah, this time around it wasn't revolved so much around these kind of Puritan ideas about the devil and hell. This was a very different landscape. This was after the American Civil War, and there was a big interest in spiritualism, communing with the dead, mesmerism as an art, what we would probably now just call hypnotism. And it was kind of a combination of, there were bereaved families who wanted to speak to people that they'd lost in the war, and then there were all these veterans who had a bit of a spiritual hole going around looking for something to fill it. Into this stepped Mary Baker Eddy, who was a very eccentric woman, and she was the founder of the Christian Science movement, which is part Christianity and then a massive dollop of very era-specific weirdness around spiritualism. She basically believed in a kind of metaphysical, spiritual healing of physical ailments through Christian Science. And Spofford became one of her early converts, and he helped her publish her first book. And then they had a spectacular fallout over the publishing rights around her second book. Soon after this, Eddy started accusing him of basically the antithesis of Christian Science healing is this concept she called malicious animal magnetism, a form of mind control which she believed could be used to harm others, and she helpfully even coined the term for this, mind crimes. And so it's widely speculated, although it hasn't been definitively proved, that she put Lucretia Brown up to these allegations to get back at her former acolyte.
I mean, it's all very well with hindsight to say this wouldn't have worked in court. But I mean, mind crimes. Like just right from the beginning, you're just thinking it's an outside chance this one, surely.
Yeah. Well, yeah, so, I mean, Eddie does deny that she had anything to do with it, but certainly when...
She's dead now, Arian, it's fine, you don't need to be scared. Eddie, if you're listening, we're giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Well, I was about to withdraw the benefit of the doubt because actually when the case came to trial, she testified against Spofford. So even if she wasn't behind the case itself, she certainly took part in it.
Mind crime.
But anyway, so Spofford's attorney looking at the case argued that the court couldn't possibly rule on such a thing as mind crime or mesmerism, which basically he said, it's not a real thing, so the court has no jurisdiction assessing it.
That sounds fair, doesn't it?
Yeah. Brown's attorney countered that actually mesmerism was a real thing, and she
I
said...
shall prove it by making you desperately want to eat this bar of soap.
Yeah, and so the attorney said it's an acknowledged fact and challenged the objection. The judge ultimately, to kind of skip ahead a little bit, dismissed the case, noting two crucial things. One, the case was vague and not in accordance with the law, which is basically siding with the view that mesmerism doesn't really exist. But the court ruled that it's not clear how it could possibly prevent any sort of mental control or what the remedy could possibly be. Because even if they put Spofford in jail, he could still use his mind to attack the people who he was attacking. So, there's no possible way that the court could get involved, according to the court.
But you can punish people for things that they think, if they then publish those thoughts in a way that causes harm. Although I suppose then if they're in prison, they can't publish anymore, can they? So publishing's a bit different.
I guess that's true. And also, you're still in prison. Like, either way, even if you're attacking people, you're still being punished.
Yeah, but you're more likely, aren't you, if you're stewing away in a prison cell?
True.
They've got a point. You're more likely to spend all your time thinking, oh, that Eddie.
Yeah.
Oh, what a stinker.
Really mesmerise her.
As a sequel to the original Salem witch trials, it was a bit of a flop, to say the least. And it also met with a lot of sarcastic commentary in the press. It was kind of seen as a bit embarrassing for the town that this was being, brought to national attention. Because obviously, this basically was a dispute within a tiny religious sect that ended up in court. It obviously wasn't really in line with the beliefs of the majority of Americans, although whilst researching this, I did come across something really interesting about how folk magic did remain quite popular in rural communities well into the 20th century. There was a book called The Long Lost Friend, published by a German-American immigrant in 1820, and according to some accounts, in some rural homes, especially in Pennsylvania where he set up shop, in some poor households, the only two books they would have would be the Bible and The Long Lost Friend. And it was kind of a Christian magic almanac. It contained instructions for spells, potions, etc., but also like random elements of non-supernatural things like recipes and herbal remedies for livestock and stuff.
I suppose you've got to breed the frog's legs before you can put them in the soup.
Well, exactly. It's a holistic approach to witchcraft. And then in 1928, it ended up being at the centre of a murder trial. A guy that we would now describe as having paranoia and probably severe untreated mental illness.
Well, like pretty much every witch that they ever put to death.
Yeah. He became very obsessed with the idea that someone had put a curse on him, and he carried around a copy of this book, and he ended up murdering one of his neighbours over this. So this book, The Long Lost Friend, and by extension this attachment to magical folklore, kind of dropped away quite suddenly in the aftermath of what was called the Hex House murder.
Even though witchcraft trials themselves ended, Wicca and witchcraft is massively on the rise. And so, after a bit of a lull, now apparently there's 730,000 practicing Wicca in the United States, according to a Pew Research study.
I've met a witch. I've interviewed a witch.
Have you?
Yeah.
I'll go in.
I went to Glastonbury and interviewed a witch for a video series that I was making, and she told me that, what's that man made out of chalk with the big boner on the side of the hill?
Sir Nabis Giant.
The Sir Nabis Giant, thank you, yes. She told me that when she wanted to become pregnant, she went and rubbed herself on him.
Oh, wow.
I don't know what book of Christian magic she found that one in.
Did she give you gout? Is this where the gout came from?
Unless, it was a very long form spell because it was 12 years later. She did give me some love potion, though.
Really?
Yeah, like aphrodisiac herbs, allegedly.
Wait, is this around the time that you met your wife?
Tomorrow.
That just, decapitating someone with an axe and then taking his finger off, a bishop, that doesn't sound like something you do to that bloke.
Ditch the ads and get a Sunday episode when you join Club Retrospectors. Patreon.com/retrospectors.